Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Let's go ahead and get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentleman Fan Project Reviews. I'm Sid Partu. Joining me today is...
The Real Manos.
Indeed. And today we are going to power up and discuss this Dragon Ball fan manga. So the next 20 minutes or so of the show will be Manos and I screaming at the top of our lungs, and then we'll use all that power to review the whole thing in about 10 minutes. And go. Oh, fun. Anyway, so yes, we're discussing a Dragon Ball fan manga that is actually very popular called Dragon Ball Wrong Time. The premise of this is very in line with a lot of Dragon Ball stuff. It's Dragon Ball and Marvel seem to just be in love with what-ifs when it comes to fan-made things. So Dragon Ball what-if story is basically 90% of Dragon Ball fan fiction out there. So this is what if Trunks went further back in time than he intended to and arrived on Earth during the Saiyan saga as opposed to at the beginning of the Android saga where he was actually supposed to show up. And so yeah, that's kind of the starting point here. Manos, what did you think of this?
I was first really impressed by the art. The art is gorgeous, and I have read some of the Dragon Ball manga over the years. I did when I was just starting to get into Dragon Ball Z. I did start buying the manga produced. I think it was Viz that was publishing it in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And I bought that for a few months until I realized, like, oh, this is pretty much the same damn thing I'm watching on TV. So I stopped buying it. But boy, man, I mean, this art really jumps out. It's got like the same textures. It's really like it really does look like the original artist on this book. The premise is interesting, and you're right to compare it to Marvel's What Ifs, because it is like a classic what if screw up. And what if like one thing screwed up and it would start this chain of events going on. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like this was finished.
Nope.
So we never get to see like if she had an ending point on this series. I'm not sure what that would have been. Maybe she started doing it for fun, and then it got really like popular, and she never really had an ending for it.
Well, the creator, if you go to their main DeviantArt page, basically the last thing they ever did there was post a journal saying about Wrong Time.
Yeah,
and it's a pretty blunt statement of. Basically, I stopped being interested in Dragon Ball very shortly after I started working on Wrong Time, and I was really only keeping up with it because of some interest from the fan base and because it was exposure from the fan base. But ultimately, I ended a chapter and decided I'm just not interested in doing this anymore, so I'm abandoning the project, is the gist of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just one of those things where I'm like, that is totally reasonable, totally fair. I understand completely your decision to do that, but I just wish that when people are going out and starting these fan projects, they put more thought into how long do I want to be invested in this?
True.
Because you do have to acknowledge that you're probably, like, the chances of you ever making a dime off of it, whether directly or indirectly through jobs from it, are incredibly low. And so you do have to be willing to do it as a passion project, and at that point you should measure how much passion you have for the thing. So I'm never going to fault anyone from walking away from a fan project. But at the same time, as someone who really likes fan projects, it's very disappointing to find something with this much talent behind it, with such a great premise, just get completely dropped. And I'm like, well, it's not like it's... The thing that gets me the most about it is, for as great a premise it is, we barely explore it, and it languishes a lot of time in just the Saiyan saga. Trunks is almost incidental at a certain point. I feel like you can count on one hand all the things that happen differently because Trunks is there.
Well, I think it's an interesting idea in that if you just take this dynamic and add it to that storyline, what the ripple effect on what that is, and I think that's what she was starting to get at. Mm-hmm. And obviously, she kind of like got disinterested in the project, so we never really got to see her follow through on that idea. And this is the kind of thing like Marvel What Ifs or some X-Men What Ifs and stuff like that. There was a really cool one of my favorite What If comics actually was a Star Wars one. When Dark Horse was doing, I forgot what they called it, but they did a series of miniseries that was kind of in the What If style. And the first miniseries I picked up, and I love the idea. It was what if Vader had tried to turn Leia to the dark side in New Hope. And it's a cool idea because, like, hey, he had her. Like... Mm-hmm. Torturing her, like prisoner. They had her for quite a while. They could have found out at any point that who she was, and made the attempt to turn her to the dark side. And they would have had a perfect opportunity. They blew up her planet. Mm-hmm. That would probably turn somebody to the dark side pretty quickly. Yeah. I love that kind of concept. So it's really interesting. Like one little mistake can turn the story into like this whole different direction. I really applaud this concept. Now we've seen a lot of people do this. We've already talked about a couple of fan projects which have changed things like in the present day, like Raditz not being killed, which probably is one of my favorite ideas.
And another Dragon Ball project we reviewed was what if Vegeta got sent to Earth instead of Goku? Yeah. These are all great premises, and I feel like the distinction, or not the distinction, I feel like there are a couple different kinds of what if scenarios. And I'm going to use Marvel for an example because it's just really easy to pinpoint with their what if comics. It seems whenever Marvel does a what if, there's two different kinds of stories they tell. One is they take the premise and tell a self-contained story with that premise, or they try to cram the whole character's life story into one issue. Oh. And it's almost never something in between. Like, they just released a new round of what ifs, and some of them were kind of okay, and some of them sucked. And one of them was what if Peter Parker became the Punisher. And it was seriously, it's the exact same thing. It's, okay, here are the events of Peter Parker's life, changed slightly so that it becomes more hardcore and starts killing people. And then we go through the whole fucking life story of Peter Parker until we get to Spider-Man No More. So, like, that seems to be the thing. And this seems to be, to get back to the fan manga itself, this seems to be going directly on that kind of thing. This is, the way that it was being told seems pretty directly that Trunks is going to be there for the events of the Saiyan saga, be a little bit of a thorn in the side, and then what's really going to change is the story going forward. So technically we'd have to do the whole fucking saga up until Majin Buu, for Christ's sake. And that just, I totally understand why someone would be intimidated and walk away from that. my point earlier about taking more consideration into checking your passion for a project before you get into it is if you think, okay, I like Dragon Ball, I have this really cool idea, I want to do it, but I don't want to do it forever, then, 5 chapters, admittedly of varying lengths, 5 chapters seems like a way that you can do the Saiyan saga and do it in such a way that you're not going to have to be there forever. I feel like there's a way to tell the story if you're more economic about it, if you put more planning into it, and if you don't waste time showing stuff that we already know. Do you feel that the artist does a reasonably good job of matching Toriyama's art?
I do. I particularly like the manga style. It definitely does feel that way. Yeah,
and I'm just going to throw this out there. You really could have just penciled Trunks into the background of some of these scenes from the book. It may have looked a little awkward or whatever, but if you just need him to be there for the events, you could get away with something like that. Yeah. Because it's a fan work. And then you wouldn't have to be, spinning your wheels, wasting time, and you could spend your 5 chapters doing a much more condensed story that's not meant to go on forever, that's meant to play upon what really is the draw, what really is the interesting thing here for the drama, which is Trunks seeing his father at his worst. Like, that's what you immediately you see the title, you see Trunks and Saiyan Saga style Vegeta on the cover, and you're just like, oh, that poor boy. That's the stuff I want to read, and we get a little bit of it, but not nearly as much as you'd hope.
That's one of the things that I was anticipating when I started reading this. There were a few things. I was thinking he's going to screw up the entire story by his presence, and also we were going to get to see maybe him and Vegeta. Maybe he might fight Vegeta and almost kill Vegeta, or kill Vegeta or something like that, or kind of cause one of those time paradoxes, or I don't know, just something, or find himself getting Goku killed and maybe having to, in a way, take his place. In the timeline. There were several different scenarios that I kept going when I first started reading this, and since a lot of fan comics, this one didn't finish, so I'm kind of left wondering which way we would go with this. Let's see. Of course, I have a lot of love for the art, though. I mean, even though I can tell it's not specifically Toriyama. It's clearly done in that style really well.
And I will say it improves dramatically as you go. There's the first full color image you get of Nappa and Vegeta after they destroyed the city. It looks good. It's certainly better than anything I could do. But as you keep going, as you see more of the art, especially by the time you get Goku and Vegeta fighting, it's it's night and day. There's marked improvement. They started this strip in 2011. They stopped it in 2014. So you're seeing an artist evolve over those years. Yeah, most definitely.
I really love her Vegeta. Frankly, I think she really nailed that era of that character. He just looks so amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean, the pages we get in color are absolutely fantastic. They're so far and few between, but they're just, whoo. And the thing for me here is the moments that matter the most are easily the best moments. Chapters 1 and 2 are pretty much there just for filler, but the second you get to that, the second color page of Trunks stepping in to save Gohan instead of Piccolo is that's almost where you should start. It feels like you could go straight from the seeing Nappa and Vegeta show up to maybe keep that page of him flying there straight to that moment. I feel like as much as I like the art, as much as I love the premise, I feel like there was a lot of wasted time trying to tell a larger scale story than the artist was wanting to tell. Really, I feel like this was a passion project that it's totally reasonable to spend some time on, as long as you're enjoying what you're doing. And I understand wanting to leave it when you're not enjoying that anymore. But I do feel like the reason we talk about these is try to, key people into some of the pitfalls. So it's like you could totally have done this much more efficiently, which would mean you might actually be able to finish the project before your passion runs out for it and you don't have to commit years and years of your life. Or maybe you could find a way to take those skills and look at more efficient storytelling just to begin with. Because, I mean, I love Dragon Ball, but a lot of what we know of it is intentionally inefficient storytelling. And so it's a really good thing to learn what you need in a story versus what's there so that they can pad out an episode and give Akira Toriyama some time to write another chapter and so on and so forth.
It might have been interesting to be subversive on the way Toriyama writes Dragon Ball Z. And what we consider a Dragon Ball Z story is there's so much padding and all these things. And that might have been nice to kind of use him as a way to break all that up and cut the story down, because I don't know, like a lot of traditionally Dragon Ball Z stories are half power-ups. So I mean that could have been
it's the classic joke, really.
It is a joke. Matter of fact, yeah, they did a great joke on OKKO, Let's Be Heroes, where the villain, OKKO and his cohorts are trying to stop this villain, and while he powers up, they get all prepared. So funny, because he even announces that, I'll be and my 1 minute power up. And yelling and they're all getting ready. They're not just fucking standing there like dumbasses. Which always drove me crazy with Dragon Ball Z. It's like they're not doing anything. Do something.
Right. Like
watch.
The classic joke was, how many Dragon Ball characters does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
Only one, but it's going to take 5 episodes. It's funny because it's so true. And so I love a lot of the art that I'm seeing here. I like the premise. I think it is a very strong premise. And I'll even admit to, given the context of Dragon Ball, it's written like Dragon Ball, but I don't I don't feel you have to. I feel like there are a lot of inefficiencies here. Because ultimately, from the second that Trunks blocks the first attempt to kill Gohan.
Sorry.
What?
Sorry. Oh, I was reaching under my seat, what is that? I pulled it out. It's a dead bug.
Ew. Yuck.
Jesus Christ. Sorry.
From the second that Trunks inserts himself in and blocks the attempt to kill Gohan, there's stuff that happens certainly, but it's almost just kicking its wheels or spinning its wheels until it does the exact same thing again, only it's Vegeta that tries to kill him that time. And it's there's a chapter of just, it's not that it's not interesting, it's not that it's not cool, but it's just ultimately useless.
Yeah.
Again, the thing that I'm interested in the most, the thing that I'm here for the most, is Trunks having to see Vegeta at his worst. Because I am a Vegeta fan.
Should have been the heart of the story, I think.
Really should have been. They talk to each other, but not nearly enough. The tension is in Trunks thinking, oh wow, all these guys are so weak, I can take any of them out in a second, including my father. The tension is in Trunks really not realizing that his father was this bad. You can tell that Bulma told him more than I think she's ever told him about Vegeta in any other version. She told him that he got all their friends killed but I don't think he was as aware as he becomes the second he's there to see it happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's just such an interesting premise, especially for a time travel story. There's so much room to do stuff with there. And yeah, I really think that this story could have been told in a way that dealt with the events of the Saiyan saga, inserted Trunks into them, and put more of the drama just on the father-son interaction than on, Goku and Vegeta fighting. Because of course I love Goku and Vegeta fighting, but you know what? I have the original manga, I have the anime to go watch for that. I don't have anything else besides this for future Trunks meeting Saiyan Saga Vegeta. That's a very intriguing premise, and it doesn't get... That's what the heart of everything is, and it just doesn't get to do enough with that.
Correct, yeah.
Even in the 5 chapters that we have over 3 years. So, it's a disappointment. I will say you can definitely see that the creator grew artistically through this, and I'm willing to bet the desire to walk away from Dragon Ball is probably an indication that she grew as a storyteller too. That she realized what she liked about the fandom, what she liked about the property, and then realized that she didn't want to devote herself just to that for so long, that she wanted to go off and make other stuff.
Well, let me tell you, I can relate to that. I have done that before. I have done like my own little bit of fan fiction, and I write my own stuff. I write Red Knight. I write some other projects that I'm working on that I hope to actually sell to people. So, that's always, to me, priority first. But occasionally I do get the bug to write something. Like, like a couple of years ago, I attempted a Wonder Woman fan fiction on a friend's fan site back during New 52, and I wanted to write I wanted to write some Wonder Woman. And about three chapters in, I kind of got the end of the origin stuff done, and I was like, I'm really busy. Like, I got my work, I got, I have my job, I have my, writing work I'm going to get done. I got the YouTube channel, I got, my personal life. And like, I just couldn't fit it in. So I kind of got to a stopping point and kind of moved on.
And that's totally reasonable. I like I said, I'm not here to harp on this writer artist for abandoning the project or anything like that. I don't want to give that impression off at all. I just want to point out for other people listening to this that abandoned projects like this can tell you almost more about the approach to fan work than the completed super highly polished stuff that you see. Because for every super highly polished fan film or whatever you find out there, there's about 75 fan films where someone spent a lot of money and then all their friends lost interest in doing it.
Yeah.
I promise you that. And so these failed projects or these projects that got canceled along the way or something can tell you a lot about what pitfalls people fall into when they're making fan work and how they could, what they could have done differently to, still produce good quality work, but also produce something that will help them grow as opposed to spinning their wheels. And this is one of those things where I definitely think, as much as I like it, and I really wouldn't have half the complaints I do about it if it had finished, but it didn't, so I do. That being said, if you were going to do a fan-made property and you wanted to get paid for it, Dragon Ball seems to be the place to go, because I'm not sure if you've heard of it. There's this manga out that just got the English translation called Reincarnated as Yamcha or something. It's about a fan of Dragon Ball waking up in Yamcha's body of all things. And that's done by the same guy who did Dragon Ball Sai, which is Vegeta got sent to Earth instead of Goku. And both of those things have been sold in stores.
Wow, how is that possible?
I have no idea. The legality behind this shit just blows my mind. So this very well could have been sold off or what have you, but it's just one of those things we're thinking about. It's like, I can't believe people are able to do that. It's amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, I have no idea. Well, I mean, look, they do bootleg like toys and T-shirts all the time. So I'm actually there are some bootleg novels. I've heard stories of bootleg Harry Potter novels in Russia.
Really? I don't know,
yeah.
Manos. What I'm thinking this means is you and I need to write some Dragon Ball fan fiction and get paid.
All set. I am ready to do that.
Oh man, yeah. It's crazy how that all works out. But what can you do? Anyway, we need a couple more minutes on this. And I do feel I've been overly negative, so I want to talk about some things that I really, really like. The art I can rave all day about. I'm also particularly impressed by the pages we get in color. They all really actually justify being in color, to be honest. They have a lot of importance to the scenes. I really like the way Vegeta's written. I feel like Vegeta's a very inconsistent character when you read him in fans' hands. And I like just how damn brutal Saiyan Saga Vegeta is here. He was a real son bitch. And, when he's talking about all the things he's gonna do to Gohan, just trying to piss Goku off. That's some good shit.
I would agree 100% on Vegeta's treatment in this. He is direct. Mm-hmm. And I really like that approach with him. Like, he straight up tries to kill Gohan. Like, not like making any kind of like giving him any kind of like chance. Like, he just points and like shoots. Mm-hmm. And it's only because of Trunks that Gohan is saved. And for a page, I thought, oh fuck. Like, mm-hmm. They killed Gohan in this. And yeah, he's absolutely wonderful at this. He's probably my favorite character in this collection.
Yeah. I mean, he's great, and I love the way he's written. He's so verbose and full of himself too. It's like, you'd like your son to be next, right? It would be such an act of mercy to put an end to his pathetic existence. I'll even deprive myself of the pleasure of breaking every bone in his body and disemboweling him. I'll just disintegrate him. It'll be clean, fast, efficient. What do you think? Like, God, fuck this guy. This is the kid raised by Frieza. You know? That's what you get. And that's the thing to me that makes Vegeta a really intriguing character is he's, he is a brutal son of a bitch early on in Dragon Ball, but at a certain point, you can't hold it against him too much because he's essentially a child soldier. Yeah. Vegeta and Goku are kind of the ultimate argument between nature versus nurture. Is everything about, like, Goku probably would have ended up exactly the same as Vegeta and Nappa and Raditz and all the other Saiyans if he was raised like the other Saiyans. And Vegeta's just kind of the ultimate culmination of that. And he, in fact, had it worse because he had to be raised in part by Frieza.
The man who killed his father.
Yeah, so, like, there's only so much you can hate him for when you, like, start to look at the context of that. And I find it really interesting to put Trunks there because Trunks, on some level, knows the context, and yet he still has to deal with Vegeta at his absolute worst. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, there's a million things you could do with that, and this does some of them, but not nearly as much as I'd hoped.
I also had fun reading this because in my head, when I was reading Vegeta's dialogue, I clearly heard the original dub actor's voice on Vegeta. Who, to be honest, was my favorite of the Vegetas. Okay. That voice actor, he had a little bit of a higher pitch than the one that's best known. Mm-hmm. I forgot who took over when they changed studios. I think his name's
Christopher Sabat or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. The original one with the American dub, I don't know. I just always enjoyed. There's just a higher pitch and just like a God, just a nice mean-spiritedness that actor was able to put in. So that's always stuck with me as the voice of Vegeta. And I clearly heard that voice when I was reading that. So that was a nice little extra.
Yeah, I agree. He does just come off the page. I heard Christopher Spot because that's the only voice I really know for Vegeta. So,
well, yeah, look.
That and the guy from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, but he's just doing a really good Christopher Spot impression.
Yeah. So. Well, yeah. I mean, Christopher Spot, like, like when they made what was it, in the 90s when they made the transition? And actually, I remember it took me a few episodes to get used to the new voices on that. Because on Cartoon Network, I was watching like the original, I think it's the Ocean dub. So a lot of those voices I rather enjoyed, particularly Vegeta's voice and Piccolo's voice. And I guess that was one of the disappointments is losing them. But oh boy, man, it was kind of nice. It made me feel nostalgic.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Other stuff I really like about this. Nappa's cool. He's there. Pretty much everyone's just kind of there. That's what Dragon Ball tends to be. For as much as I am complaining about this wasting a lot of time, I'll give them some credit that they didn't have Trunks show up for the fucking Cybermen and Yamcha died and everything. They haven't come in right about where I think he should. It's I just feel they spin their wheels on Goku versus Vegeta. If anything, like the way I would have had this go, because I'm so important, is I would have had Trunks kick both their asses so he could make them listen, which would have been a great way to build it. Anyway, I don't really have much else on this. It's a really cool idea. I will say this has a bit of a legacy for those interested in it. A lot of people have done videos on this. I saw one guy was like doing what he would have done with the series had it continued, and he was writing it, and that's kind of interesting. It involved Trunks going to Namek and everything, so what have you. But
I wouldn't have gone all the way through the history of the series. I would have had a stopping point, particularly the Saiyan saga. This would just be the Saiyan saga. At least that's the way I would have approached it, and how things would have been completely, changed. And I don't know. There's a couple of how I ended. I would have to decide if I was going to actually write this. So I can't really say how much further I would go, but I would definitely try to have an ending and end it in the Saiyan saga, not continue. But I know everybody would do their own thing with it.
Yeah, that's totally fair. But yeah, it's a neat little stopped project, canceled project, and it is worth your time to check out. Just of course, be aware that it's going to be a little anticlimactic since it doesn't have a proper conclusion.
Unless you can go to Morpheus's library and find the shelf of unfinished stories.
Good one, good pull.
You're not going to be able to find it.
Yeah, good pull. All right, let's go ahead and go on to a rating for this. I'll go ahead and go first, mostly because I just have a really good noun. I am going to give this 4 out of 5 Scouters.
Ooh, yeah.
I love the Scouters. I miss the Scouters so much. I was so happy when we had Scouters back for a whole 5 minutes in the Resurrection F arc of Dragon Ball Super. How about you, Manos?
Okay. Let's see. I think, Kakarot, that I would give this 4 out of 5 Ocean Dub actors. The art really had me. Nice.
Alrighty. Manos, what will we be talking about next time? It hurts, doesn't it? It hurts.
I have no time to prepare. Okay. Up next, we are returning back to the Batman universe with Rise of the Catwoman, Chapter 1.
Yay! Should be fun. All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching this video on the Hero of Time week, I guess I'm going to have to call it, since we did a Trunks character discussion earlier in the week. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the realist.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be powering up. Ah!